Hello everybody, and welcome back to this video series on Ketu and Rahu through the Rasis, also known as the signs. Today we're going to be talking specifically about Ketu's placement in Virgo, whilst Rahu is placed in Pisces. Before we do that, I just wanted to explain that even though these videos can give you a lot of excellent information on the nodal placements in the horoscope, so much goes into understanding your unique karmic composition, like the nakshatras that Ketu and Rahu may be in, as well as the houses they're interacting with and the planets that influence them. So if you'd like to know more about your own nodal placements, I do offer a consultation called the Intensive Consultation, which contains a karmic analysis, which takes an in-depth look at Ketu and Rahu's placement, both in the Shastiyamsha chart as well as the Rashi chart. Details on this particular consultation, which, yes, again, contains a karmic analysis plus 2 additional questions, can be found at the link above. So most people, when they understand Virgo energy, they think of it as being very particular, right? It's said that Virgos can be very picky. They like for things to be clean. They like for things to be structured. Well, let's kind of dissect this a little bit and see if we can understand a little bit more about how Ketu in Virgo is prone to behaving. Because if we remember, where Ketu is placed in the horoscope creates what I like to call a security paradigm, a way of relating to things that the individual believes is the best way to go about things in order to keep their life moving ahead in a smooth manner. Okay, so with Virgo, Virgo is a Rashi that's ruled by Mercury, and it's the earth sign of Mercury. Now, Mercury itself is also connected to the earth element, and it's also connected to our sense of smell. And when humans were more animalistic in nature, their sense of smell played an important role in understanding what might be good to take into one's life and what would ultimately not be the best thing to take into one's life, right? So Mercury is very big on the processes of discrimination, determining what is helpful to an individual and getting rid of those things that are not helpful to an individual. But there can be a tendency to become too particular in that particular direction, right? Speaking of particular, in addition to that, whenever you have Ketu in a Mercury-associated sign, whether it be Gemini or Virgo, the individual is prone to thinking that they need to follow a certain set of standards or rules in order to make things work out okay. But Ketu in Virgo is even more structured in that particular capacity. So let's come up with an analogy to help you to understand. So let's say that Ketu happened to be in Virgo in the 10th house, right? And the Ketu in Virgo in the 10th house person has an experience in life where they put a lot of hard work into trying to achieve a level of success, and they have a breakthrough. And they get all sorts of accolades. Perhaps they even get a raise on their job, promotion, nice executive suite and office with executive toilet with a servant that comes along and cleans up the floor behind them. Everything that Ketu and Virgo would absolutely love, the perfection of cleanliness, tidiness, orderliness, everything just set up absolutely perfect. And they go, wow. Now, anytime I want to be successful, quite simply, I just have to follow these specific rules. Then a time comes along where they try following those rules, and those rules don't work. Okay, so what do they do next? Well, they try working harder at following those rules, right? Because they figure with that earth aspect of their being that working harder is certainly going to make it work better. If, trying the same set of rules that they did last time isn't working, at a nice leisurely pace, well, sure, I have to amplify things a little bit. Sorry, I can't even say amplify today. So they amplify things and they put more energy and they put more effort into it. And guess what? it still doesn't go anywhere. And so they increase their efforts manyfold and really push and try and become even more orderly and become even more perfect in trying to create the perfect set of conditions for even greater levels of success, but they don't get anywhere. And what eventually happens is they find themselves in a position where they're mentally exhausted. And probably physically exhausted and energetically exhausted too. After all, Virgo's the natural 6th house of the zodiac, right? And so they get stressed out and they get run down and they become absolutely exhausted because they became mentally attached to thinking that things had to work in a certain manner. They became attached to the concept that I have to do this in this particular set of ways. And if I don't do it in this particular set of ways, then things are not going to work out in the manner I want them to. And there will go my nice executive, bathroom with my servant cleaning up, every movement that I make. And there will go my nice executive office and it will all go out the window. So I have to really try harder, but guess what? Working harder didn't really bring me what I wanted it to. So then the realization dawns on the Ketu and Virgo individual that there's something that has greater sway on their lives. They're not in control of it. They can't be in control. Sometimes trying to structure things perfectly creates imperfection. Creates the very opposite of what Ketu and Virgo wants to create, right? Then comes Rahu in Pisces, which begins to teach the Ketu and Virgo placement that sometimes you just have to surrender to the process, right? So perhaps it's not so much that taking the actions that you took were the wrong thing. Perhaps working hard was a good thing. But perhaps the mental attachment that you had to working hard and thinking that you were in control of the situation was creating the hardship for you. Perhaps that was the source of stress. Perhaps you can recognize that, well, you know what? I'll just surrender to the flow. I'll work hard because working hard really is something that I feel is the right thing to do. It's something that makes me feel stable. It's something that makes me feel secure. So I'll do it for those particular reasons. And that can work out okay unless they become too controlled in how they're trying to create that stability and create that security. And then comes another situation which breaks them down again until ultimately they recognize that, you know what, I just need to do what I do. So on a certain level, Ketu and Virgo with Rahu in Pisces is the perfect example of the karma yoga placement. For those of you who don't know what that's about, right? We can become mentally attached to the fruits of our actions. We can think, if I do this, then this will happen, right? But sometimes when we do certain things, nothing happens, right? But it doesn't mean we shouldn't do those things. It just means that we should do them sheerly for the sake of it's what we're meant to be doing. Not with this attachment of going, if I do it, I will be able to control my environment. I will be able to keep everything perfectly in order. Everything will work out absolutely perfectly. Everything will stay nice and clean and orderly and tidy. You got to let go of all that. Because that is not something that is ultimately going to work for the Ketu and Virgo person, even though they think it is something that should work. Instead, they're meant to just surrender to the fact of going, this is my purpose. This is my destiny. This is what I'm here to do. It may not always create the very thing that I'm hoping that it will create, but as long as I am comfortable with the fact that it's absolutely the right thing to do, and this is what I'm meant to do, then that's perfection. So the perfection that I think I'm creating through my actions and through my mental attachment and through thinking that, if I do this, it will create the perfect success if we're dealing with Ketu in the 10th house. Or if I do this, it will create the perfect relationship if it's Ketu in the 7th house. So think about it like you've got somebody who goes, my relationship needs to be structured in this particular way. I have to behave this way with my spouse and that way with my spouse in order to keep my relationship nice and safe and healthy. Well, guess what? The relationship breaks down. Person finds themselves by themselves. And perhaps they learn a valuable lesson that when you go into a relationship the next time, all you have to do is be yourself in the relationship. Rahu in the 1st house in contrast to Ketu in the 7th house. Let's pick another dynamic, right? Let's say you've got Ketu in the 3rd house, right? As long as I express myself in this particular way, as long as I put my energy and effort into things in this specific way, then certainly my life is going to be filled with motivation and move ahead. But gee, I'm really exhausted and I don't seem to be getting anywhere. Maybe instead I need to surrender to a higher sense of purpose, a deeper level of understanding, and not go so deeply into thinking that it's my actual actions and my actual expressions that are creating the things that are going on in my environment. Instead, it's just the natural flow of who I am that is creating these things rather than me running the show thinking that I'm controlling it in this particular manner. Let's look at another way of relating to it. Let's say you've got Ketu in the 12th in Virgo. Wow, as long as I go about this particular set of rituals every single day, this particular way of relating to spirituality every single day, or as long as I isolate myself in the forest for 20 years, then I'll reach enlightenment. Well, the person stands on one foot with their arm up in the air, then their arm gets stuck that way and all they get is being in a lot of pain, right? Then they go, you know what, the forest isn't for me. I'm just going to go out into the real world and engage with people. And through doing that, they recognize the interconnectedness of all beings and they become enlightened in that particular manner. And the way that they thought they were going to get their enlightenment didn't happen at all. So there's a level of relinquishing control, relinquishing mental attachment, releasing one's connection to thinking that doing things in a particular manner is always going to bring the specific result. Ketu in Mercury signs, either Gemini or Virgo, always has a level of following the rules attached to it. And then Rahu's placement either in Sagittarius or Pisces comes along and helps the individual to understand that on one level, the rules don't apply. So with Rahu and Pisces, when it is discovered that those rules don't apply, the individual finds themselves in a space where ultimately they have to surrender. Thing is they have a hard time doing that, and a certain level of indecisiveness comes over the individual through Rahu and Pisces because they are not certain due to the hardship and the lack of structure that has happened through Ketu and Virgo. Let me explain that more deeply. So the Ketu and Virgo side of them has worked hard to build success in one area of life or another. And then because they encounter hardship, they want to surrender, but they don't know if that's such a good idea because even surrendering seems like a sense of trying to control their environment, and they're afraid of making a mistake through surrendering, right? Until ultimately they just have to let go of the whole concept of control. So I'm going to be teaching a couple of courses in the next month, starting in the next month. Sorry, got a little bit tongue twisted there. One is on the elements of the Panchangam, which are what I use in my regular lunar transit articles and videos. And the other is on the Lajatati Avastas, which relate to how the planets find fulfillment in the horoscope. Information on both of these courses can be found at the link above. That's going to do it for this look at Ketu's placement in Virgo and Rahu's placement in Pisces. Until next time, please do take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.